Hey, welcome back, guitar players and traders. It's John here from Play and Trade Guitars, where we play it and trade it. Back with another edition of On the Bench with an amazing piece of pre-CBS Fender history today. Sometimes you're browsing Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and you see a guitar that you know has your name on it. And this amazing one-owner guitar made its way from its original owner in 1961 to our hands here at Play and Trade Guitars. With On the Bench, I'm going to talk the acquisition story, history, and specs of this guitar, and we're going to let you weigh in the comments. If you have something to add to the knowledge base for this beautiful guitar that I'm about to reveal when we flip these latches, do so in the comments. At the top, make sure you're subscribed to Play and Trade Guitars. This beautiful Les Paul Custom Shop R7 over my shoulder is being given away to one of you soon. Stay subscribed with lots more details to come. Without further ado, let's flip these latches and get started on this beautiful piece of Fender iconic American history. Let's do it. Oh my goodness. We have here a 1961 Fender Musicmaster in Sunburst, 3/4 size guitar. This guitar came out of the mind of Don Randall at Fender. He talked Leo Fender into offering a student-sized 3/4 model as a step-up model approaching the big brother Strat and Telecaster. It was intended to capitalize on a wave of new players after the summer of 1955, when Bill Haley and the Comets' Rock Around the Clock spent 10 weeks on the Billboard charts, and Fender and Don Randall geniusly were there to capitalize with the development from 1955 until product launch in 1956 of the Fender Musicmaster and its cousin, the Duosonic, two pickup model, in the spring of 1956. It went through a few iterations and changes. It started as a maple, one-piece maple neck. You can see this example from 1961 has a Brazilian rosewood slab board with clay dot inlays. Has a Strat style Fender headstock with vintage tuners. Fender Spaghetti Musicmaster logo. And this one actually has a sunburst. They were originally offered from 1956 until this change in single colors. But at the direction of dealers' recommendations, they thought they could actually start doing the Musicmaster in sunburst to be an even clearer and obvious step up to the Stratocaster when it came time to upgrade. They felt that if it looked more like the Stratocaster, it would inspire younger players once they had some playtime under their belt to move on up to the big brother Stratocaster. Flipping it over, you can see it got much love in the first 20 years of its life before it was put away in a closet for 40 plus years. We're going to pull the neck off and see if there's any pencil markings or dates, which I'd love to see. We have the Fender Deluxe tuners on here, Strat style headstock. So reminiscent of a Strat, if you want pre-CBS experience with a Fender instrument but don't have the cash to drop on a Stratocaster or just want to try something different and unique, this is the 3/4 scale, 22.5 inches. This guitar has one repair that I need to do. This bone nut is loose in its slot, intact but loose, so we're going to take a little bit of wood glue and clamp that down. But I cannot wait to get this on the bench and take it apart. Drop a comment, let me know what you think of the initial reaction here. So like I said, I think these are the original flat wound strings on this guitar. I could be wrong. Let me know what you think. There's only 3 left. This guitar is near and dear to my heart because if you've watched Play and Trade Guitars, you may have noticed that I have an older video back from 2016. It was the first video I ever put on YouTube of playing guitar, long before Play and Trade Guitars became a channel in 2020. So when this popped up, it was a year older and I just had to have it. I always kind of regretted selling that one that I featured in that video. So there's those strings popping out of the Deluxe tuners. I actually love this style. I call it quick loading. Down here you can see the strings are top loading through a 3-piece saddle design reminiscent of a Telecaster. It's got threaded barrels. That changed from solid steel, which would have been in the mid to late 50s, then changing to a threaded design, probably late 50s to early 1960s. I'm going to keep these strings because, you know, who knows? If these are original, I'll keep it with the set. And it's interesting, flat wound strings would have been the norm back then, and with a short scale guitar in particular, you might think you want smaller strings. It's actually the opposite. Because your scale length is less at 22.5 inches compared to 25.5 inches on a Strat or Telecaster, there's actually less tension on the strings. And so because of that, if you use a standard 9-gauge string or a 10-gauge string, you're going to notice a lot more slack on the strings. So I'm actually between 2 choices. I'm actually between Chrome 12-gauge flat wounds or D'Addario 11-gauge regular wounds. It's definitely got enough nicotine on there to tell you it's old. All right, so I've got the strings off this guitar. We're gonna take it down to all its component parts and take a look. Let's get to it. Let's get that screwdriver out and get to work. Now with a vintage instrument, I like to keep track of which screws go where, and I also don't like to use power tools, so I'm gonna be using just a regular screwdriver to begin taking off each of the component parts here. This 3-piece saddle, like a Telecaster, is screwed straight into the body. The body was typically made of poplar, ash early on, or alder, just like the Big Brother Stratocaster. I just absolutely love the history of an instrument like this. Thinking about Leo Fender and crew sitting in a warehouse garage putting these together, it's just so cool to think about. There's that saddle design for you. Let me shine a little more light on there. Threaded saddle design, 3 saddles, height adjustable, as well as length adjustable, top loading for the strings, and that sits on top of the body here. You can see the ground wire actually runs, the ground wire is right there making contact with the plate for grounding. Next thing we'll take off is this Telecaster style knob. I love the blending of styles. So you have the Telecaster in 1951 and the Stratocaster in 1954. And as I designed this, they basically said, well, we want a stepping stone to those. And let's take some design elements from both. Just gonna loosen this screw here in order to remove this carefully. Now one thing before I forget, I'm going to come back up to this headstock because I mentioned that this bone nut is actually loose in its slot. So I'm going to take that out before I forget because it's easy to pick up the guitar and have that fall on the ground and break. So there is the Brazilian rosewood fretboard. There's a bone nut. I'm going to just set that off to the side here and we're going to glue that shortly with some wood glue back into its slot. I just don't want to forget and have a sad day where I drop that on the floor and it breaks in half. Don't need that. I am going to spray deoxit contact cleaner in the pots once we get to them, but I also like to spray a little topside because it does work its way down into the barrel. So I'm using a deoxit contact cleaner just a little bit in the barrel here, and what that'll do is kind of work its way down into the shaft, and we'll spray it into the actual pots once we open up. Spray a little burst down into the input jack. Just kind of thumb around, clean that out with a Q-tip. All right, so you can see this single pickup has a, I think it has a brown color cover on there. Now we're going to go at this single ply pickguard. And basically I just line my screws up from this corner in the order in which I take them out. The last Musicmaster I had, I didn't think to take apart. Would have been too intimidated. To think that this hasn't seen the light of day since 1961 is just quite amazing to me. All right, let's carefully see what we're working with. I think this will lift up as one component here. Yep. Ah, there's a pick in here. Huh. Oh my gosh. Wow. All right, so we have a Switchcraft input jack. It's marked Switchcraft. Cloth wiring leading to 250K pot. Astron 0.05 MF 200 VDC cap. Big boy cap on there on the tone. See, it says 250K AUD 304-6135. Just fantastic. What's interesting is that this is actually a piece of metal, aluminum, underneath the single ply pickguard, which I wasn't expecting to see. And it says clad 2024, and then PILER, or pylon, PILAN. Drop a comment if you know what that means. And then here is that pickup, which to my understanding, these are basically the same as Strat pickups. Black bobbin. This is just so cool. Here's a look at that again. And there's a pick under there. I can't believe there's a pick under there. That is so cool. I'm gonna spray a little contact cleaner in there while I'm here. I'll work that around in there. Original tape pulling down the lead wires to that pickup. This is just a piece of history right here. This is so cool. What is with this pick here? Now, this is interesting because it's got this very skinny wire here, which I'm now realizing is meant to make contact with the aluminum. This tiny little wire makes contact with the aluminum and then grounds to the saddle bridge plate here. And then this is wild. I mean, there's a pick stuck right here. You can see a pencil marking here. Oh, and this is the other thing. I mean, so there's two pickup routes because, again, for the Duosonic and Musicmaster, they just routed the body exactly the same. So the bodies were interchangeable for Musicmaster and Duosonic. And down here, looks like it says 2. If anyone knows what that pencil mark is, let us know. And if you know what kind of wood this is, let us know in the comments. But this pick right here is just something else. Man, is that cool. This would be a nitro finish. Now be careful because this little wire is actually crucial to the design here. This little wire here goes in order to ground. How cool is that? There's a pick, maybe with the fingerprints of Leo Fender. Oh, that is just too cool. So interesting, no shrinking of this pickguard. So if you can share with us when the shrinking pickguards on vintage guitars, what era that would be, because this one didn't shrink at all. Securing now that ground wire between the aluminum plate and the saddle. So it looks like on this guitar, seems to be a 2-piece body. You can see the center seam running right down the middle. Take the neck off in a minute. Let's flip it over. Take a look at the body construction. So if you can see this seam, 2-piece body. Here's the plate, 67205. I'm going to take this neck off momentarily here. Kind of see the thinness of the body as well. So no contours like a Strat. Kind of a beveled edge, more beveled than a Telecaster, but no body contours. So kind of a hybrid. There's that other pin. And yeah, at this point we're going to take the neck off. Loosen up the plate. And this is the one place I'll use a low torque drill just to drive those out. Take that plate off carefully. Then we'll flip this around and ever so carefully take this neck off. Oh, there it goes. Oh my goodness. There we go. If you can see that, it says 4/61 for April of 61. See the slab of Brazilian rosewood there, April of 1961. Just unbelievable. There's another marking there if anybody can decipher. Just unbelievable piece of history. Gonna glue that nut back in. And as far as the body goes, no markings. All right, it's come time to turn our attention to this fretboard. Give it some love. Pretty grimy. So I'm gonna just hydrate the fretboard. Gonna kind of baptize that. This is beautiful Brazilian rosewood. Show it a little love. It's got clay dot inlays. Show a little extra attention to the actual frets themselves. So I'm just trying to work the edge of the frets to get some of the gunk out of there. And I'm just going to do minimal cleaning because of the age of this vintage guitar. And I basically just want to use the dirt to take the dirt off, if that makes sense, which is a thing I've found. All right, so the neck is conditioned. The last thing to do here is glue on that nut, which will have to dry overnight. All right, so I'm just going to use a little bit of wood glue to put this nut back on. I'm going to use as little as possible. And we're gluing this beautiful little bone nut here back in its slot. Once it's settled in there, my plan is to actually use the tension of the strings to hold it down and dry. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so the glue on the nut is drying. Decision time. I think since I'm a big Strat guy, I'm going to try the 11 gauge regular wound strings first. If those are too slinky, we'll take those off and move on to the 12 gauge chromes. Let's string it up and use the tension of the strings to hold down the nut while it dries overnight. All right, it's got 6 strings for the first time in who knows how long. All right, so for the first time in many decades, this 1961 Musicmaster has been restrung to pitch. It's going to cure overnight. The nut needs to dry. It was glued back in with wood glue. Beautiful guitar, conditioned the Brazilian rosewood. It's looking sharp. It's little, it's light, but it packs a mean sound. Wait till we plug this in. Let's get some measurements. 5 pounds, 13 ounces. Let's read that pickup. All right, pickup reads a solid 5.5. Nut width is a tick over 1.5 inches, all just under 1 9/16. 21 frets. And of course, Musicmaster at 22.5-inch scale. All right, that's a wrap on this 1961 Fender Musicmaster 3/4 size guitar. Beautiful pre-CBS historic example from Fender USA. Leo Fender and the crew building incredible guitars, and the marketing genius of Don Randall saying, why don't we have a student budget level guitar? And that would be the Musicmaster, 3/4 size, but built with just as fine components as the Strat and Teles, the big brothers. A stepping stone to the big brothers, and yet this guitar itself just sounds incredible. I can't wait to plug it in and play it. This example was a one-owner guitar, and it was really a pleasure to document on the bench. Weigh in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed to win a Gibson Les Paul, custom shop Les Paul R7. It's pretty sweet, and one of our subscribers is going to win. Get a load of this incredible guitar. Thanks for watching on the bench. We'll plug it in and play it.